I tend to like to have a bunch of carbohydrates in and around when I work out, and then I peter off my carbohydrates throughout the day. So typically for dinner, I'm not really eating a lot of carbohydrates. It's a lot of veggies, and if there are carbohydrates involved, it's either going to be sweet potatoes, and it's typically 3 to 4 ounces of sweet potatoes. And now, mind you, I'm not measuring this out. I just have been doing this for a long time, so I have an eye for it. So it's typically for dinner, some sort of a protein, 6 to 7 ounces. So I eat a little bit more protein towards the end of the day, and I would rather have fats than carbohydrates towards the end of the day. So it'll be protein, veggies, some avocado, something like that, and like a big salad.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow was cracking.
All right, y'all, I want to talk to you guys about nutrition today. I want to talk to you about nutrition. This is going to be another one of those quick hitting podcasts, short and sweet, but impactful. Nutrition is such a focal point for me in my life. What I put into my body, I know is actually going to dictate my health and happiness. What I eat becomes who I am. Food is essential. Substance is essential for human beings. We need it, and we don't make it inside of our bodies. So we need to get it from outside of our bodies. So it is a requirement for life. And you can choose to make poor decisions there and create really, really bad habits around nutrition, or not. And so I get asked all the time, what do you eat on a daily basis? And I've shared about it a bunch, but I figured I'd take an opportunity to share it with you guys now. Again, because I think it's a very, very popular question that I get. What does a day of eating look like for you? And so I'm going to tell you exactly what it looks like for me. And I also will tell you that different styles of training will definitely, and I'm talking about fitness now, different styles of fitness training can get you different results in either performance or aesthetic. But really what is going to power those results is how you eat and what you eat. And so right now I'm in a pretty neutral place where I've got a High Rocks coming up in November, which is a competition race. I did one in New York City in the spring, early summer, and I loved it. And so now I'm not trying to win it. I'm just going out there and to give it my best. But because I don't feel like my training is very specific-ish for it, my nutrition is pretty similar to how I've been eating for a long time. And I'll tell you exactly what that is. So I wake up at around 5:15 every morning, and I don't eat typically until about 8:30, 9 a.m. And these days I'm actually working out early in the morning, so I will train fasted, and before I train, I will have a pre-workout typically, and sometimes if I got a heavy day, I'll put back a quick banana or an apple. But most days I'm just going right into the gym and I'm getting after it. And my post-workout meal every single day, my first meal of the day, every single day, I'm sure you guys can guess it. You're right. It is Creatures of Habit Meal 1. Now, I require typically, and I don't track my macros with a scale anymore just because I spent so many years tracking macros through the bodybuilding days that I kind of have a really good eyeball for where my protein is, where my carbs are, where my fat is. But I know that protein is my number one priority when it comes to macros. And so I get 50 grams of protein every morning with my meal 1. And the way I do that is when I make it the night before, I pour in a pouch of meal 1 and then I just do an extra scoop of protein powder. So that's getting me around 50 grams of protein, give or take, in the morning. And that is my first meal every day. And, meal 1, just so you guys, for those of you who are on meal 1, you know exactly what it is. For those of you that are not using meal 1, it is arguably one of the greatest first meals you can have every single day. It's super easy, super convenient, super tasty. But it's a high protein overnight oatmeal, and we make it with gluten and glyphosate-free oats. We use plant-based protein, so we use a blend of pea and fava protein. There are chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds in there, and that's where we get our omega-3s. We also use pink Himalayan salt for electrolytes, so there's a fair amount of sodium in it so that you get those electrolytes in the morning. There's also vitamin D3, probiotic, and digestive enzymes that we add to it. So it is really getting you this high protein blast. You're getting the carbohydrates from the oats, you're getting healthy fats from the seeds, and then we're also tackling gut health with the probiotic digestive enzymes. And then you're getting vitamin D3, which many of us are deficient in. So that's my first meal of the day. I always make it with around 5 ounces of almond milk. And the way I make it is I take my Kreature container, I pour in the milk first, then I pour in the pouch of oats, then I do the extra scoop of protein, and then I mix it really, really well. I cover it and I throw it in the fridge. I pull it out in the morning. I add a little bit more milk to loosen it up. I'll typically add some frozen blueberries and cacao nibs to it, and I go to town. And that's my first meal of the day, and it's around, with the extra scoop of protein, I'm getting 50 grams of protein, probably about 40 grams of carbohydrates, 10 grams of fat or so, and it's running me around 500-ish calories, which is the perfect meal for me post-workout. It's exactly what I need to refuel and to feel satiated. And so that typically takes me, so if I eat that at 8:30 or 9, that typically takes me till around 11:30. And my first snack of the day is a meat stick. I use Maui Nui venison meat sticks. I've eaten a lot of meat sticks over the years. Maui Nui venison meat sticks are without a doubt the best meat sticks I've ever had in my life. They are incredibly clean. Venison is incredibly lean. And the venison that they use for Maui Nui venison sticks are like stress-free, harvested, environmentally friendly, and just like ecologically amazing. And so I love Maui Nui venison. And so those are the meat sticks that I use, and I have 2 to 3 of those a day. My first snack, depending on how hungry I am, is going to be dependent on how hard I lifted in the morning. But typically 1 meat stick for me at 11:30 is kind of where I feel good. That like tides me over until 1 o'clock when I have my lunch. And for lunch every single day, I have 5.5 to 6 ounces of chicken breast. Chicken is just easy for me for lunch. It's easy to cook. I typically roast my chicken breast, and so I'll do a big batch of chicken breast and a bunch of veggies on Sundays, and I make my lunches for the week. And so it's 5.5 to 6 ounces of chicken breast. I will do about 3 to 4 ounces of broccoli, 2 to 3 ounces of asparagus, a couple of handfuls of green, and a chopped cucumber. And I typically dress that with a really simple homemade vinaigrette, which is either, depending on how I'm feeling, I'll either use balsamic vinegar or apple cider vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, and some honey mustard, and I shake that in a little jar, and that's what I use to dress my salads or my, the greens in lunch. And then I typically have some kind of a hot sauce, like some simple hot sauce that I'll throw on my chicken. But that's my lunch every single day, and it's simple. I don't think about it. It's what I eat every day. It actually tastes delicious. I always season my veggies really well, and it's filling and satiating, and I'm getting an additional 50 grams of protein there. At around 2:33, I'll have my second snack of the day, and that'll either be 1 or 2 Maui Nui venison sticks. I just love having those things around. They're super convenient, and so I really do eat somewhere between 2 and 3 of those things a day. And sometimes I'll have a ready-to-drink protein shake that I like, but really it tends to be I get the protein in my snacks from the venison sticks. And I will also have a matcha in the morning. I gave up coffee. Just been really nice for my gut. But I always have, with my meal 1 every day, I have a matcha in the morning, and I'll have another matcha in the afternoon. And something that I love to add to my matcha, which is a massive game changer for me, is this Manakora Manuka honey. Holy smokes. It's literally liquid gold. This stuff, it's arguably the best honey ever made in the world. I mean, it's honey made in New Zealand, in a remote area of New Zealand, from the Manuka flowers, and the bees pollinate these Manuka flowers, and they make this Manuka honey. And there are some antibacterials in this honey that you can't find anywhere else on the planet. So it's like the antioxidants, the antibacterial in this honey is just bananas. So I love my Manakura honey that I use in my matcha in the morning and in the evening. And it also has some carbohydrates in there to give me a little extra energy. That's a slow burn. And then I go to dinner, and I typically, for dinner, my wife tends to cook dinner Monday through Thursday and some Fridays. And we have dinner at 6 o'clock every night at home around the table with my family. And dinner always is some kind of protein, whether it's salmon or chicken or bison or venison or beef. Those are typically the proteins that we use, any kind of fish. But my wife is an amazing cook, and so she'll cook some kind of protein, and it's typically going to be around 6 or 7 ounces of protein for me. And something that I forgot about my lunch. Depending on what my training is like, will be dependent on whether or not I add quinoa to my lunches every day or not. I tend to like to have a bunch of carbohydrates in and around when I work out, and then I peter off my carbohydrates throughout the day. So typically for dinner, I'm not really eating a lot of carbohydrates. It's a lot of veggies, and if there are carbohydrates involved, it's either going to be sweet potatoes, and it's typically 3 to 4 ounces of sweet potatoes. And now, mind you, I'm not measuring this out. I just have been doing this for a long time, so I have an eye for it. So it's typically for dinner, some sort of a protein, 6 to 7 ounces. So I eat a little bit more protein towards the end of the day, and I would rather have fats than carbohydrates towards the end of the day. So it'll be protein, veggies, some avocado, something like that, and like a big salad. My wife makes the best salads, and she typically uses ingredients in those salads that are growing locally. So, right now we just had a salad the other night that was off the chart. So there's like late harvest strawberries that she picked up and some peaches still around. And so she made a really delicious salad with kale and arugula, strawberries, peaches, and avocado. And it was just so goddamn good. So that's typically what my dinner looks like. Quite frankly, that's kind of the end of my eating for the day. I always have Nightcap or Kreatures Sleep. I'm not sure when this podcast is gonna drop, but we're changing the name, or we've already changed the name of Nightcap, our sleep support product, to Kreatures Sleep, just to make it a little bit easier to understand. But I typically have that at around 8 o'clock at night, an hour or so before I go to bed. And that's kind of like my sweet tooth quencher for the night. And that's typically what a day of eating looks like for me. And it stays, the only adjustments that I really make, my protein tends to stay exactly the same. The only adjustments I tend to make are in my carbohydrate intake based on if I'm training for something specific. That was far more prevalent in my life when I was competing in bodybuilding. So there were times where I had to just have a ton of carbohydrates to refuel my glycogen so that I can really go harder and heavier in the gym. But right now I'm not doing that. So I wouldn't call myself low carbohydrate, but I'm on a moderate carbohydrate protocol right now, where I'm eating 40 to 50 grams of carbohydrates in the morning. I'm probably eating 30 to 40 grams in the afternoon, and then maybe 20 grams at night. So it's probably somewhere between 100 and 120 grams of carbohydrates a day. My protein is around 180 grams of protein, somewhere between 160 and 180 grams of protein a day, and my fat is probably somewhere between 60 and 70 grams of fat. So I just wanted to share that with you guys in more of a little bit of an in-depth way, outside of just posting something on Instagram, because I get that question all the time. And, I'm going to be 44 years old if maybe this podcast drops, and I'm already 44 years old because my birthday's coming up. But, I got to say, I'm in some of the best shape of my life. And I owe it to my consistency with nutrition specifically. And then, of course, my training protocols. I train hard. I love training. But I really focus on nutrition. It's a big part of my life because, I've been in the food business forever, and now my business is really in healthy, habitual nutrition. So I hope that was helpful. Share this with someone. Share it. I'm not going to go through all the things that I am. Share this podcast with someone that you love, that you think would appreciate it. Share it with a friend, a family member. What would mean the world is if you guys gave us a 5-star rating and a review. I'm really trying to grow this podcast, and I'm going to say it at the end of every episode going forward because that is such a crucial component to growing a podcast, getting ratings and reviews. So the more I get, the more we're able to grow, the more people I'm able to engage with and impact potentially. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Peace.